What is your longest running, most stubborn business boycott? Uber stole $2 from my bank account, $1 twice, and I was broke that week, resulting in 2 NSF charges, $45 each. I called Uber to ask what the heck they were doing. They said, "We're just making sure your account is active." I demanded the $92 back. They gave me the 2, set to take up the 90 with TD Bank. I called TD Bank. They told me to stop spending money if I know I don't have money, even though I had just told them I wasn't the one doing the spending. I canceled my Uber account, closed my TD Bank account, didn't pay the 90, and never did business with either one ever again. And here we are, 10 years later, neither one making a dime from me. It makes you wonder how much money they're missing out on because of all the people who they lost due to crap like this. Story 2. I refused to use a plumbing company in the area because in 2001 they gave a free quote, came out to the job to perform the work, said it was going to be triple the price, which I refused, then charged me a service fee. I refused to pay the service fee because by logic, a quote isn't complete until accurate, and they turned me into collections. Collections called. I told them I'd be happy to pay as soon as they produced the non-existent contract with my signature attached. Never heard from them again. Screw you, church plumbing and heating. Story 3. Enterprise. Someone renting their car and crashed into me. They knew I had insurance but repeatedly pestered me personally to not only pay damages but also pay for their lost revenue. And again, they crashed into me, not the other way around. I told them if they called me again, I'd sue. I still use other car rental companies that are part of the same parent company because it's impossible not to, but I'll pass away before I rent from Enterprise again. Story 4. My favorite story would be from my best friend's dad. Every Thursday, he would order a pizza from Domino's, but asked that 1/4 of it be cheese only for his children. Since they knew him, he paid the full topping price, and he did this so regularly they didn't have a problem with it. That was until one time when he was giving his regular order and the owner interrupted the employer taking the order, insisting that they would not fulfill a special request like that. He explained that he'd been doing it this way for over a year and it's never been a problem, but the owner said absolutely not. He was patient with the owner, but with this betrayal of trust and how rude the owner was, he would never do business with him again. Cut to a few years later, the school he works at is taking bids from local restaurants to provide a treat lunch for their students. The contract would be regularly ordering enough for, I think, 2,500 students once a month. They got bids from a lot of restaurants and Domino's was the cheapest. So he called the owner, had him come up to the school for a meeting to iron out the contract details, and explained, "Several years ago, you refused to let me get a pizza that was 1/4 cheese, and I said I would never do business with you again. Therefore, this school's contract is going to Pizza Hut instead." Story 5. Dogfish Head Ale House refused to seat my disabled mother. She had ALS and was in a wheelchair at that point. She just wanted to go out for dinner with the family to feel normal again. And we got there and we put our names on the seating list. After 25 minutes, they offered us a high top bar table, which was above her head and the chair. We said it wouldn't work, pointed out the wheelchair. After another 30 minutes, they offered us a table upstairs. We asked if there was an elevator. They said no, only stairs. We said it wouldn't work, pointed out the wheelchair. They had a little discussion amongst themselves. After 20 more minutes elapsed, they came and offered us a high top bar table again. We said it wouldn't work, pointed out the wheelchair yet again. They discussed among themselves again and then told us they had a big party and couldn't be expected to move chairs in the main dining room to accommodate a wheelchair and that they couldn't help us. We just went home after they wasted an hour of our time. My mom was so embarrassed she never tried to go out to eat again. I know it was probably just a bunch of kids working, but man, screw that place. Mom, being in a wheelchair, was an inconvenience to us too. You think we wanted her to be dying of ALS? It's been over a decade and I'm still mad about it. Story 6. The butcher, a couple of streets away from me. I arrive with the goal of buying some pork cheeks. There were 3 people in front of me, but 5 people ended up being served before myself because a couple of regulars arrived and started casually chatting with the staff and ended up being served mid-chat. When my turn arrived, there was literally a big pile of cheeks on the counter, an absolute tower of them. I asked for some and they told me that they were all sold out. I freaking hate these places where you're either part of this weird club or you're treated like crap. Story 7. Late to the party, but the Volkswagen car dealer locally where I live. They took my car for a wheel alignment and oil change and took me to a local coffee shop to wait with their courtesy shuttle. I lost track of time because I was studying and realized they were closed. It was only supposed to take a couple of hours. Called in the next day to complain and the guy said he tried calling me. This was new to cell phone time, so I showed him I had no missed calls and my cell could track that. Well then, the owner got angry at me and didn't do my wheel alignment for 3 days, never did change the oil. I went into the car lot at night and just took my car back. Then they had the nerve to call me and say they're keeping my extra key until I pay for the service. Screw them. Yeah, screw you, Bill. You're still on my list. Story 8. Sky TV in the UK. Buckle in. It's a long one. So, my mother-in-law was going to visit family with her husband and he popped off to get a paper and disappeared. Turned out that, at a time when everyone was struggling post-2008 crash, MIL lost her job at police records office due to cutbacks. Wife's training to be a teacher had hit a roadblock, and I'd also got some serious work struggles I won't cover here. He decided, screw this, I'm out, and devised a grand strategy to essentially run off, knowing we were also on holiday with the kids, to his mates and return with the van to essentially grab his crap and run. As part of that, yep, he took the Sky subscription in his name, and so we had literally zero TV connection. Freeview wasn't really a thing yet, cable didn't exist in the area. I rang them, explained the situation and its temporary nature. The mortgage was jointly in my name and his, so we planned to move and surrender the property to the lender, as we were 3 adults not pulling any real wages, and we had an arrangement set up, yay, TV, etc. Life comes together a bit again, me and the wife and the kids move into a rental property my mom and dad have sorted out for us, MIL goes to live with her sister, everything is back on track. And then £520 gets pulled from our bank account. Everything bounces, council tax, rent, everything. I have to pull some serious favors to get things even close to on track. Turns out Sky hadn't actually set up a temporary account. They'd put us on contract. And by moving, we had broken said contract, including £260 in fees, which they took twice in a day with no notice. They eventually refunded £260 of it after 4 months of threatening them with Ofcom, but naturally, despite all previous arrangements and admitting the error that is as good as we got, no apology, no offer of any sort of compensation, just, yeah, fine, we shouldn't have taken it twice. So yes, screw Sky TV, I can only hope the streaming era ends them for good. Story 9. Verizon. About 25 years ago, my wife went to Mexico with a friend. When she got there, she called me and the call was charged back to our Verizon phone bill. It was a very quick call, just a, hey, I'm here and okay call, less than 2 minutes. We were charged over $100. I thought this was ridiculous and excessive, so I called Verizon to complain. They said it was a third-party charge and they were just passing it along. I said, fine, then just take it off my bill because I'm not paying it. The rep told me they might disconnect my phone for non-payment. I told her, I'm not paying this. I will go to jail before I pay this. If you want to lose a customer over a bill that's not even yours, then come and take my phone out right now. I never paid for it. We switched carriers the next year. They continued to send us bills and threaten collections, but I didn't care and really doubted they were going to take me to court for $100 that wasn't even theirs. Nothing ever came of it, but I am still salty because there were a couple of credits on my bill over the next year, which reduced my monthly bill. But I had them on autopay, so I essentially overpaid the bill twice. They applied the overpayment to the third-party debt, which reduced the unpaid amount down to around $80. I still want my $25 back. Story 10. Walmart. Ever since I saw the documentary from the 2000s that told the world all about the Waltonaires and the way they ran that company, I have been diligent about not giving them my business. In the years since it came out, very little appears to have changed about their practices. Cashiers working for their dad were given stock options that made them millionaires. This stood in such stark contrast to the way his children made sure to pay starvation wages to the people who enriched them. It just became impossible for me to forget every time going to Walmart came up. I've been inside one because someone else wanted to get something, but I do what I can to avoid ever giving them money. Story 11. There was a cinema, equal distance from the other cinema I can get to within an hour. I went to a late-night screening of Inside Man starring Denzel Washington. This was way back when it first came out. The numbers for the late screening were low, about 10 people sitting and waiting, popcorn meal deals in hand. The film never started. After about 10 minutes, an old guy got up and left. Another 3 minutes, I got up and met the old guy coming back in. He told me they weren't showing the film and he shouted it out to everyone sitting down. The staff didn't even have the courtesy to tell us. We all walked out. It was 11 p.m. I was offered a refund for my ticket or I could go see Big Mama's House 2, which had just started. Seeing as I had already spent 20 pounds on popcorn and Fanta, we went to that instead. I should have gotten the refund. I haven't darkened the door of that establishment since. Story 12. Apple, without a doubt. They constantly claim to have quote-unquote invented things that other companies invented years prior. They prioritize aesthetics over performance to the point they would rather throttle performance than install proper cooling. From an engineering point of view, their products are extremely poorly designed, having main power rails next to the extremely power-sensitive components on the motherboard. The list goes on, not to mention that they treat their brainwashed install base like crap, selling things with known design flaws, then refusing service, marrying components to motherboards so they can only be serviced by their own engineers who charge so much you might as well buy a new device. Again, this is by design. Not to mention the fact that they got caught pushing updates that slowed down people's devices just as the newer versions came out. They can't even claim superior build quality anymore. Screw Apple. Story 13. Walmart, 20 plus years. We didn't have them in the Pacific Northwest when I was growing up. When one finally opened up in my hometown, it immediately became the place in our city with the most police calls annually. The stores are a trashy experience and I don't see any reason to go there over Target or other competitors. This doesn't even touch on the bigger issues with Walmart, including the impact they have on small businesses and these stores' cost to society in terms of EBT, Medicaid, and welfare benefits for their grossly underpaid employees. Crappy stores, bad customer experiences are bad for society and bad for their employees. We'll never shop at Walmart again. Story 14. HP printers, never again. Their cartridges, which they claim to print 1,000 papers and are expensive, stop working after printing 40 to 50 pages multiple times. I once changed an empty black and white cartridge with an original cartridge and the printer never recognized the change and never changed the ink level, so I had to purchase another one. After every update, the printer became slower and slower to the point that I had to restart it every time I needed to print a new document. Another time, the color cartridge was a bit low. I thought, okay, it's a 7-page document, it'll make it, and then did some cleaning, printed a quality check page, didn't print my document. Then I restarted it and pressed print again, then it cleaned itself again, printed another quality check page again, and again, it stopped working and didn't print my document because the cartridge was empty. It's one thing to make the ink prices ridiculously high and another thing, as the prices are high, to scam people in their faces without any care or remorse. People, please don't fall for their lower printer prices. They will make you pay quadruple the amount of money in cartridges and you will not get the job done. I dream of the day an open source inkjet will become a reality. By the way, right now I use a Brother DCP T300, much older than the HP above, which I bought used, and my life with it is night and day compared to the previous printer. Story 15. Flair Airlines. Years ago, my father and I purchased tickets to visit family across the country and wanted to save a bit of money. We could only bring a backpack that could fit under the seat as a carry-on would cost us extra. No biggie, we're good at packing. The day before our flight, we got an email saying that our flight has been moved to be scheduled an hour later. Okay, that's fine. We like to get to airports early anyway, so may as well leave at our original time and not feel the need to rush. We got to our gate an hour before it's set to leave. My dad went to get us breakfast. There was only one Tim's open, so the line was long, while I waited at the gate. However, after a little bit, I noticed that no one else was waiting at the gate, so I asked the attendants at the desk what's going on. Turns out everyone already boarded. They moved it back to the original time slot without notifying us and were going to close the doors within the next minute. I frantically called my dad, who had nearly made it to the front of the line, and he sprinted back to the gate. We barely made our flight. We got so lucky. If I didn't ask when I did, it would have taken off while we were at the gate. 20 minutes after takeoff, Flair Airlines notifies us that our flight schedule was moved back to the original time slot. They're never getting my money ever again, and I warn every single person about them if they ever plan to travel. Screw you, Flair Airlines. Story 16. American Airlines, 13 years running, and I currently live in Charlotte, their East Coast hub. I travel regularly for business and typically go to visit family in Europe at least once per year. I willingly pay more and have to take a connection on 90% of my flights. I travel enough that I reached Diamond with Delta last year to avoid giving them my business. Why? AA told me to purchase a flexible ticket, but actually charged me for 3 extra checked bags, then repeatedly called me a liar while refusing to contact the manager who had approved a flight change for me. Then tried to make me fly to a place that was not my destination with the intent of connecting through my current location before going to my final destination, knowing I would be stranded at the interim destination overnight without accommodation when I could travel directly from my current location to my destination. The longer version is that I was lied to and told I'd been issued a flexible ticket and was told to confirm with them the day before the flight. When I went to change it, I was told that type of ticket did not exist. What was the $150 extra that I was charged then? The agent on the phone had told me I bought a flex ticket, then charged me for 3 checked bags, on top of my 2 already free checked bags I had with my status. I ended up having to buy a ticket to my point of origin, which would then have to connect back through the airport where I already was. The manager I spoke with said that they would change it for me at the airport counter as it was ridiculous to fly RT to my point of origin. Knowing this may not be the case, I made sure to get her name, her contact info, and employee ID number. When I got to the counter, they refused to change it. I asked them to call the person I had spoken with. They said I was lying and fabricating all of this information because nobody would ever approve that. I asked how could I have all their information then, or if they could at least try calling them to see. Non-starter, I was repeatedly told I was a liar. Fine, I'll take the round-trip flight back to where I started, no problem. Then, because of bad weather, the flight that would be returning to my point of origin would be delayed to the point I would miss the connection at the airport where I currently was. I could not simply stay there because since there was no flexible ticket, I would technically miss the first leg of the trip and the whole ticket would be canceled. I again asked if they could change my ticket so I would not be stranded at an airport I had no need to go to. Nope. I asked if they would be providing accommodation since they were forcing me to go there knowing I would be stranded. Sorry, sir, it's weather-related, nothing we can do. Except let me just board the next leg here, an airport where I already am. I ended up leaving the airport and found someone else I could talk to outside of security. They, thankfully, sorted it out. But Americans can kick rocks for that one. They lost a few tens of thousands in business travel. Story 17. There's a gas station chain in my area. The current owner's grandfather screwed over my grandfather over 60 years ago. My grandfather was a distributor and the man ordered a bunch of stuff for the station. Gas station supplies, batteries, candy, gum, cigarettes, Slim Jims, and so on. When it came time to deliver an invoice, he found another distributor who charged a little less and refused delivery on the items he had already ordered. It led to a fallout and lawyers, but at the end of the day, suing for breach of contract would have been a bigger pain in the bum than eating some of the loss and finding another client to purchase the goods. Cut to 60 years later, both men have been gone for decades, but there is no way in hell I will ever buy gas there. Story 18. My wife and I used to go to this restaurant in Bethesda, MD called the Marcos. This place has fantastic pizzas and cheap bottles of wine. Back when we were dating, we were there every Tuesday night. Fast forward 4 years, we called them to reserve their party room for our family dinner before our wedding. And this was 8 months before our wedding. Fast forward to 1 month before our wedding, they called me to tell me they double booked the room and that they were going with the other party. My last words were, "Go screw you, take all the meat in that hole and stuff yourself with it too." If you run out of things to stuff yourself with, I'm sure there's something sharp laying around. Use that. I always feel bad for what I said. Their pizza, wine, and atmosphere were wonderful, but screw them. Story 19. 20 years ago, I was in the market for my first new car. I'd gotten a promotion at work and I could afford to buy something that wasn't a used crap box for the first time. So I was going to different dealers, looking at their inexpensive options, doing the math of what the payments would be, and after a lot of looking, decided I wanted to buy a Honda Civic. I talked to the salesman, test drove the car, picked my color, and was ready to go. So I went inside to do the paperwork, knowing that I didn't have a lot of credit history, but, confident that I made enough at work that it shouldn't be an issue. But the sales manager was a total schmuck. He gave me a half-hour lecture about how someone like me shouldn't be wasting their time and that there was no way I'd ever get a loan. I was deeply insulted to be treated so poorly. I went across the street and Chevy had absolutely no problem selling me a Cavalier. I paid it off early and moved on and up from there. I will absolutely never ever even consider buying a Honda as long as I live. Screw those guys. And if you're enjoying the video too, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 20. Best Buy since 2004? Sold us a full home PC setup that came with a printer, which we needed because my then GF, now wife, was starting college. Used the PC day one, but not the printer. Finally hooked up the printer a few weeks later and it didn't work. Would not power on. Go to Best Buy and they tell us it's out of warranty. Past 30 days. It was day 31. We fought with them a bit to no avail. Called HP and they were great. Sent us a new power cord and when that didn't work, replaced the whole printer. Told the story to Best Buy in one of their corporate surveys and finished it with, "I will not only never shop here again, but will also tell everyone I know not to shop at Best Buy ever again." I have stuck to that for more than 20 years and just told the story to you all. Story 21. Little Caesars Pizza. Not because I hate them or because they screwed up my order, but because every single time I've had Little Caesars as an adult, something went horribly wrong in my life. Every time. I call it Harbinger of Doom Pizza. I think the first time I can remember it happening was November 2013. We got signed our offer letters for a company retaining the contract at my job. Got a Little Caesars Pizza on the way home. After I ate some, I got a text from my boss to check my email. Turns out our company lost a contract and I ended up getting a $12,000 a year pay cut. And I lost my health insurance with the new company. Another time, right after getting Little Caesars, someone backed into my car. Then another, my girlfriend straight up decided that was a day to call and dump me. I could go on and on with instances. After I notice a pattern, I won't even touch that demon pie. Even if someone else buys it for me or at a party or something, I politely refuse every time, but I very rarely tell people why. I don't know why it happens. It might be because of that one time me and my friends were screwing around outside a concert and there was an empty roll-off dumpster with nothing in it but a full Little Caesars pizza, uneaten, very dry-aged, in its box at the bottom. My best friend dared me to take a bite, so I did. Maybe after consuming that unholy trash bin communion wafer of evil, I've been voodooed. If I was in the middle of nowhere and starving, I don't think I'd touch Little Caesars for fear of some final destination BS served up hot and ready happening to me, like getting domed by a meteorite or ended by some hunter. I just get Domino's now, or even better, Costco pizza, because it is the cheapest quality to cost ratio I've ever seen in a food product. The first time I had it was out of the back of a police car trunk, and it's been my go-to for cheap pizza ever since. Story 22. Capital One. When I was in my early 20s, I had a Cap One credit card that I had used since I was 18, never missed a payment, never late. I did carry a few $1,000s balance that fluctuated but never got paid off in full. I decided to get serious about paying down debt I had run up during college and my first years out of school, so I stopped using it and spent a few months paying down the balance. I'd paid down about 30% of the peak balance when I got a letter that they were closing my account since I wasn't using it enough. It's been almost 30 years and I have never used any Capital One product. In the mid-2000s, they bought my online bank. I immediately closed that account and moved my money. I haven't run a credit card balance since 2006, but I spend and pay off about $100,000 a year. Capital One doesn't see a dime of those fees. Their laws. Story 23. Burger King. I once got food poisoning from them. I called the store to let them know and to suggest they look into their food safety practices. I wasn't even looking for a refund. I just wanted to prevent others from getting sick. Then a couple of years later, my 4-year-old kid wanted the Dora backpack with playing cards toy instead of a stupid Hot Wheels car that had fixed-in-place wheels. I told him to go ask the cashier. She refused to trade it because the Dora toy was a girl's toy and he was a boy. I ended up advocating and getting him the toy he wanted and never went back. That kid is a homeowner with a great career, so that gives you an idea of how long I've been holding a grudge. Story 24. Pizza Hut circa 2008. Despite having a fairly decent online order system at the time with space for specific directions and instructions, I had 2 orders delivered to my landlord's house, not mine, behind theirs, even with really simple, specific instructions to my place, down the alley, at the garage, on the right. The third time, I stood in the alley, watching a car drive past the very wide, very obvious alley 3 times and pause next to it, basically toss my pizza in my landlord's yard and drive off. Called the restaurant to explain this ongoing issue. The manager was rude and dismissive and offered no kind of refund or even apology. Haven't ordered anything from them since, despite now living right down the street from one. Story 25. Papa John's over the ACA and his complaining about an extra 10 cents per pizza for healthcare for his employees. Sure, raising the price for that is perfectly fine, but it was just how disingenuous he was with Obamacare increasing cost. Again, I loved the pizza, but it wasn't worth it. Then a few years later, his use of the N-word just reinforced the decision I made. He wasn't the only person who was driving this message of how he would be forced to increase prices because of the ACA, but he was the one that I had lost respect for. Most people would be fine with paying extra for healthcare, but they increased their price without investing in their employees and benefits for the shareholders. Story 26. I do not shop at Walmart because they pay their workers crap while the owners are billionaires. It's been over a decade. I do not shop at Hobby Lobby because they force their religious beliefs on their workers and they steal from artists. It's been over a decade. I do not shop at Target because they gave in to the pressures of removing DEI from their hiring practices. It's been a year. I do not shop at Starbucks because they have spent more money fighting the union than they ever would have had they just negotiated in good faith. It's been a year. I do not shop at BP because they dump all that oil in the ocean and refuse to take responsibility. It's been over a decade. Story 27. I had Xfinity and Comcast for years and they were fine. They provided the best internet in my area at a time when I was heavy into World of Warcraft. I got a bundle deal with them for a promotion of X amount per month for 24 months. It was a good deal. Well, I ended up getting a dream job across the country where Xfinity and Comcast didn't exist, so I called to cancel. They wanted $700 more from me because the contract wasn't fulfilled, claiming I had to pay the regular price for the remainder of the contract. I argued against it, threatened to get a lawyer involved, and they finally backed down. I paid my normal bill for the last time and swore I'd never do business with them again. That was 14 years ago. Story 28. ExxonMobil. Since the Valdez oil spill in March of '89, it was an easy boycott once learning that they had been studying the effects of CO2 to our atmosphere since the 1970s and 80s, and that these tests proved that their use of the product would result in atmospheric warming, causing serious disruption to vital atmospheric system, causing irresponsible damage to these systems. Even with this knowledge, the company's public communications historically downplayed these findings and funded campaigns casting doubt on climate science, not to mention the political lobbying that caused the entire Republican caucus to parrot and expand on the public misinformation campaign, keeping effective laws off the books to mitigate the damage once global warming was overwhelmingly proven as actively occurring by the majority of the science community. Story 29. Favorite sushi spot in the college town I lived in? I went in with my girlfriend. They sit us in the corner. My girlfriend likes to booth, and when she sits, the wall next to her is gross. Smudges of who knows what next to her. I asked to move to the table right next to us. The host says no, that's for 4 people. This table is for 2 and in your server's section. I asked if it could move to another, 2 tops in the server's section, and was told I couldn't as they were reserved. Manager tag on her name card. This is 5:30 on a Friday, 100+ seat restaurant and only 4 other patrons in the place. Stood and walked out, never been back 2 years and counting. I must add this is a very popular spot, but not a sold out one every night kind of place. My girlfriend and I had been here 15 plus times before without incident. We always tipped well. Also, we're out of college, but perhaps they clocked us as demanding 18 to 22-year-olds. Story 30. Best Buy. In the mid-90s, I bought a VCR from them as well as a copy of The Lion King. 2 months later, the VCR ate the Lion King tape. There was no way to extract it from the VCR. I only had the standard 90-day warranty. I took the VCR and tape back to Best Buy asking for a refund of both. The kid at the service desk sneered and said, "We're not going to fix this. Your warranty is already 2/3 up." I not only have never bought from Best Buy again, but I worked for them in their corporate offices twice. They've paid me enough to recoup my VCR purchase a few times over. I still won't shop there though. Story 31. Amazon. My ex-boyfriend made an account using my credit card and then he passed away. They would not cancel the subscription. I argued with them for months, and one day a customer service rep started cussing me out over chat, so I took screenshots. I got another rep the next day and she said I was lying and that there was no trace of that conversation, so I sent the screenshots, and they magically canceled the account. They took about $150 from me while I was fighting them. Then Best Western wouldn't refund me even though I didn't stay in their room for more than 5 minutes because I had bed bugs. $700 gone. They claimed I never requested to cancel it at all, and Expedia offered me $100 towards another stay for the inconvenience. So Amazon, Best Western, and Expedia can go straight to hell. Story 32. American Express. They gave me a credit card in college. I used it till I ran out of money, then stopped using it since I wouldn't be able to pay for it. It sat there without a balance for about a year. Then I had a money situation. I needed it and my summer job wouldn't pay me for 2 weeks. No problem. This is the reason I had a credit card. I went to pump gas and it was declined. I was confused but found out later they'd canceled my card for not using it. I had to literally dig change out from my car to pay for enough gas to get to and from work. I didn't have much food. I used the money I could scrape together for potatoes and rice and just ate that for a week. Then I found a chocolate bar a roommate had left when he moved out. Finally a break. And that's when I found out what 100% Cocoa Baker's chocolate is. So anyway, no, almost 20 years later, I do not touch American Express. Story 33. Almost anything unnecessary, and especially if they have creepy ads or too much marketing. I literally avert my eyes and ears from all the ads I can, and guess what? I do not feel the need to have useless crap and I have more money. People really don't understand how much ads dictate their lives. I've always been this way. Ever since I was a teenager, I've found almost all commercials to be super weird and unsettling. I do not understand this culture around ads and commercials. They clearly work, people clearly like them, yet they are obnoxious, unfunny, strange, manipulative, uncreative, and purposefully annoying just to worm into your head. I feel like I just don't understand people at this point. I have become exceptional at not spending unnecessary money. I buy food and gas, pay bills, and just hold on to my money until I need it. And I seem to always need it eventually. Even if I successfully save, it ends up being needed. I know we should not have to live this way, and I am not suggesting people live without treating themselves a bit. I'm not doing the bootstraps BS. I do not blame anyone for their crippling debt. I have even been in crippling debt while working a fairly decent paying career without spending a literal dime on anything unnecessary. So I have basically boycotted most companies and it's great. Obviously, I don't do it perfectly. I mean, sometimes it just works out to grab a burger at McDonald's here and there. I'm not saying I'm perfect, just a general nah to most things, most of the time, and it has been hugely beneficial at times in my life. Story 34. Uber and Uber Eats. My account got hacked back in 2020. The individual who hijacked it attempted to order like $500 worth of food from the local McDonald's. Luckily, that didn't actually go through. Uber support was the least helpful customer service I've ever personally dealt with. I don't remember the exact details, but I had to fight tooth and nail to get my account back because support was so non-existent. Then a few days later, after I got my account back, it was hacked again. Deleted my account and uninstalled the apps. Screw that service. Story 35. Verizon, unrequested, they cut my phone service off at my apartment. Should have been a neighbor. Fought through their awful customer service. Was told they could not come back to reconnect for several weeks because the line techs were on strike as there was a long line of requests. I lost my crap with the service rep. Said service was cut for no reason and without my authorization. If an emergency arose and phone service was needed, this was in days before cells were common, they would be held responsible and I would be suing. Service was cut back on the next day, taught me that if you are in the right and threaten legal action on a company, they will most likely cower to you. I wish I had asked for more. I ditched them for AT&T as soon as they were available. Story 36. 9 West, I have boycotted them for like over 20 years. When I was fresh out of college, I splurged and bought myself a nice pair of heel boots. I wore them for maybe 3 weeks to the office when I suddenly fell over because the heel broke. I was just standing there and it broke. I tried to return them, but the store said no. They could give me a corporate number where I was instructed to mail them back and they'd repair it. After a few weeks, they sent a gift card stating the boot couldn't be fixed. When I tried to use the gift card, it didn't work. They sent me an empty gift card. I was so angry that I wasted $150. I vowed to never buy anything from them again. My hatred goes so deep my husband knows to not even suggest a 9 West product. Story 37. Glen Burnie Transmission in Glen Burnie, Maryland. The place has a sterling reputation for no discernible reason. I went to them in April 1988 on the recommendation of a coworker when my automatic transmission stopped shifting. I figured it was a broken or snapped shifter cable, but I had no knowledge of how to replace it myself, so I gave it to them. They charged $638. The invoice just had 3 lines scribbled, $38 for a new shifter cable. They gave me the old snapped-in-2 cable, a line that said $300 labor, and a line that said $300 parts. I asked what were the parts. They said they needed to use replacement gears from their used parts box. I called BS and said I want to see the old parts. They couldn't supply them. Why? The mechanic couldn't find them because he had put them in the used parts box. I ranted and raved, but it made no difference. I left and badmouthed those schmucks. To this day, I've never gone back to them. Story 38. AIG Insurance. One of their insured drivers got intoxicated and hit my car and then 3 others on 2 blocks. They tried to call it in one incident and that their driver's liability was capped. I called their adjuster and he was working on it, but one day he went on vacation and I got his supervisor, Mr. Osborne. He was blunt. He said it wasn't going to be paid. I replied that they should pay because it was the right thing to do. He said to my face, I should be prepared to be screwed in this matter. That's when I got angry. I emailed 153 federal, county, state, local, and legislative agencies that first day, saying to each one, here's what happened, here's how I got screwed, and if you have any questions, here's Mr. Osborne's number. Then every day, I found another 50 people to send it to, and the next day, another 50 for a week. I also downloaded a handwriting font and sent handwritten letters to every single SVP, director, and board member in the company, like 75 of them, also telling all of them if they had any questions to call Mr. Osborne. About a month later, some far-flung SVP of International got involved and they paid off my claim. And when I called about some paperwork on my claim a year later, my original adjuster picked up. He was like, we still get calls about you once a week. I asked about Mr. Osborne. He laughed and said he had moved on. Anyway, that was all back in 2006 before the mortgage crisis. But when that hit and they were like, this company is a problem, I was like, yeah, tell me about it. But I still won't work with AIG. Story 39. My local chipper, their online ordering system messed up. It accepted the order, but the card payment was declined. They changed it to cash on delivery, which we didn't have, and then they wanted us to give our card details over the phone at our front door. When we offered to drop the cash around when they opened the following day so we could get to an ATM, they accused us of trying to rob them. I was hangry at this point, and accusing me of trying to scam them was like the last straw. I handed the food back to the delivery driver and told him to tell them to go screw themselves. It wasn't my proudest moment, but accusing us of trying to scam them when it was on their online card payment system that failed just made me angry. It's been 5 years. We go to a different chipper 5 kilometers further away just to spite them. Story 40. Nike. Last time I bought something from them was from the Nike store in Portland, Oregon on November 8th, 2016. I wore the shoes for one day when the outer sole came loose from the heel. I called them and they had me send the shoes to them. They approved the warranty claim and sent me a gift card for the same amount. I ended up ordering shoes online at a friend's house because I wasn't going to be home for months. They flagged the transaction because the address wasn't under my name. Apparently, that is against their TOS. I ended up calling them again and getting their customer service rep to send the shoes to my job address under my name. It got flagged again because my job was at a warehouse address. Apparently, you aren't allowed to ship to a warehouse even though their customer service rep made the order for me. This time, I was told I broke their TOS too many times and they were canceling my gift card. I tried calling them back several times to get either my shoes back or another gift card, but I finally reached a senior level exec who basically told me to take off. I'm not getting my shoes back, I'm not getting another gift card, and there isn't crap I can do about it. That is the first and only time I ever wrote a negative review on the BBB website. It's been 10 years and I'm still sour about it. Story 41. PayPal. Don't tie a bank account to it or Venmo. Small print gives them a lot of freedom to charge. I had a small gig I did just after high school where I fixed computers. As some clients wanted exact repairs, I would have to order parts off eBay from time to time as they were no longer manufactured. I had a separate bank account I kept empty and only used for transferring purchase funds for this work in case of, this scenario of someone trying to scam. Seller claimed I never paid, so PayPal automatically cited and attempted to pull from my account 30 times before even messaging me or looking at transactions. As it was required to have a bank number tied to my account, they just tried to pull directly from there 30 times, leading to 30 overdraft fees for $450. Once PayPal messaged me, I showed them the transaction that they had already been paid. They refused to cover the overdraft fees that they caused and suspended my account in response. And if any of these stories got to you too, here's more for us. YouTube thinks we're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.